Hi everyone and welcome to the Syncretism Society Virtual Academy, and my name is Mehmet. And today's lesson will be Etymology Part 3, Connecting the Languages. I've already done 2 of these videos in the earlier part of my lessons, so you can also check those out. You don't have to check them out in any particular order, because basically the gist of these videos is just getting an English word and showing how different words in different languages have connections with interchangeables, and how all the different words from different languages connect. And although they might be different words, the root meaning all mean the same thing. So ultimately, that's what the gist of this is just showing the connectivity of languages rather than showing the separation. And the 5 words that I'm going to be concentrating on today will be fish, horoscope, Sodom, Gomorrah, and Hyperbola. So without further ado, I'm going to bring the board forward, and then I'm going to explain to you the gist of each word and the different words in different languages. And like I said, some interchangeables, because that's really important. Once you clock the idea of interchangeables in language, you can start working things out. Without further ado, let me bring the board forward. And like I said, the first word we're going to concentrate on is fish. So when it comes to interchangeables, F and P are interchangeable. So an example of that would be stuff like, you have the word feel when you feel sorry for someone is with an F, but then you have the name like Phil, as in someone called Philip, is PH. Then you've got philosophy, which also starts with a P. So you can see that the P and F sounds are interchangeable. So when we start looking at the word fish in different languages, we see a lot of P's coming up, which is really interesting. So the first one next to the English word fish is the word pysgod. And pysgod is the word for fish in Welsh. So obviously, so if we interchange that P with an F, that would be physgod or fish god. So then you see how the P and F are interchangeable. And we also know that Pisces, the zodiac sign, is to do with fishes as well. So if we was to change that P in Pisces with an F, it would just say Pisces or fishes, basically. So we can see that the P and the F are interchangeable when it comes to languages. And also Y and I are also interchangeable. All the interchangeables of all the vowels are interchangeable with each other. A, E, I, O, U, and Y. If you swap them around in a word, the word will still sound similar, basically. So then I started looking at different words for fish in different languages. And the archaic Greek word for fish was opsarion, but the modern day one is psari. It's pronounced sari, but it's like a silent P, basically. So what they did is they just took the psari out of the opsarion and shortened it to sari. And then when we look at the word in Latin for fish, we get pescari, which again sounds similar to psari, but with a few extra words in it. So you've got psari, and then in Latin you've got pescari. And then we get the word pescatarian, which we know is someone who doesn't eat meat but only eats fish. So then we can see where the word pescatarian comes from. It comes from the Latin and the Greek. So in Latin it's pescari, and in Greek it's sardi. And then we go over to Spanish, we've got pez, which is just like a shortened version of pescatarian. Under here, I've put 2 other words in 2 different languages. The first one, balık, is how you say fish in Turkish. And the reason why I put this down is because B and P are also interchangeable. So it's interesting that that interchangeables with the P and F is still happening with the Turkish word. So B and P are interchangeable in the alphabet as well. So the Turkish word for fish is balık. And then when we come to the Jewish word, we've got dag, and then we know the fish god is Dagon. But I'm thinking the reason why I've put dagger in brackets is because basically, when we look at a dagger, the top part of a dagger, it actually looks like a fish. It would look like the head of a fish. So I don't know if there's any correlation there. I've just put that as like a little connection, syncretism I made myself. So if any of you guys watching this and have anything to say on that, feel free to message me on the inbox and share your ideas as well. So yeah, so that is looking at the word fish in different languages and looking at the interchangeables of F, P, and B and how you can interchange those words to all have, all those letters, should I say, to all have a similar meaning when you look at the same word in different languages. So moving on to this second row here, that we're looking at the word horoscope in different languages. I looked at the European ones like Dutch and Greek, and they were all similar. So it wasn't like, I didn't want to write them ones down because they were basically so similar. There's no point, it's pretty much the same word. So I started looking at the word for horoscope in some different languages. So I looked at Turkish, Arabic, and then from the words for horoscope for Turkish and Arabic, we're going to start leading on to some other words in Latin, Greek, and German, and we're going to show the connection. So the word for horoscope in Turkish is this word here, which is burç. And in Arabic is burç with a J. J and C are also interchangeable, by the way. So, but when we look at the meaning of burç, what it actually means, its actual meaning, well, it is horoscope as well, but the actual meaning, burç, means tower or high. So that's really interesting because we know obviously the zodiac and the stars are high in the sky. So you can see the connections of why they would use the word for tower or high for the horoscope, basically. When we look at the word horoscope itself, that's obviously Horus. Horus is the sun, and the scope is the scope of the sun. So horoscope is pretty self-explanatory when it comes to English. But like I said, the words in Turkish and Arabic mean for horoscope is burç, but the word burç also means tower and high. And then when we look at the Latin, we also get the word burgos. So you can see that the connections with the Arabic and the Turkish, even in the Latin. And then we get the word Berg in German, which means mountain. So a mountain is also high. So then you can see the connections. And then bara comes from this word, Beherg, B-H-E-R-G-H. And that means, and then we get the Greek word pyrgos, which is again P and B. So Burgos becomes Pyrgos, and also Y and U are interchangeable. So then from Burgos in Latin, you get Pyrgos in Greek. So again, we're just showing the connectivity of the words. So the third word we're going into, let me just lift this up a bit because there's I've got a light for some lighting, so it's not in the way. So the next word I'm going to look at is the word Sodom. And obviously I've color coded this on purpose. We know in the Bible that Sodom and Gomorrah is a place of redness and fire and bad stuff. So, but ultimately what Sodom and Gomorrah symbolizes is our lower animalistic root chakra foundational nature. So obviously we know the word Sodom means, it relates to being raped, and it also relates to the anal passage, excuse me, sorry, I know it's a rude thing to say, but it is what it is. We're all adults here watching this. So yeah, when we look at words with sod in it, we see stuff in relation, everything's in relation to being of a lower nature or low frequency, or like, for example, I'll come to the word sad, that also connects to Sod. But also within these words, we have Adam as well, like the Dom and the Dommy and the Odden, as you can see here, Sodden, because A and O are interchangeable. So if you was to swap the O around, that would just be Sadden, and there you would have Adam in it as well. So that connects with Brother Santos of stuff where he says that all is atum. But yeah, like I said, so we've got Sodom, then we've got sodomy, then we've got Sodden, which means heavy. And that's really interesting because the root chakra, which is red and has 4 petals, is the heaviest and most dense frequency out of the 7 chakras. So that's really interesting. And then we have the word rhapsode, which is an impassioned laugh. So again, passion also correlates with redness as well. So moving on, we've got stuff like sod of dirt. The earth is also connected with the color red and iron. And out of all the 7 elements correlating with the 7 planets, the most abundant element in the earth is iron. And I spoke about this in my elements and planets video, which you can go back and check out as well. So yeah, like I said, A and O are interchangeable. So then sod can become sad. And when you're sad, you feel low, you're down here when you're sad. Whereas if you're happy, you're up here. So sadness talks about being in your lower nature of fear and being sad, basically. So then I started looking at other words in different languages, and the word for simple in Turkish is sade. Sade means simple. And obviously the root chakra is the lowest frequency, so it is simple. It's foundational, it's basic. Basically, it's about setting a base for yourself. And then also we look at the word for the moon, and one of the 10 Sephiroth is called Yesod. And the actual meaning of Yesod is foundation. So again, it's talking about that lower red root foundational chakra. So again, I'm just showing you how all these words connect, although they're different words and from different languages. So moving to the next word, Gomorrah. Gomorrah means a place full of vices. So again, lustful sexual activities correspond with vices, whereas tantric practices correspond with virtues. So we look at the word Gomorrah. It's very interesting because in Greek, the word gamor means to have sex or to fuck. Again, excuse my language, but that is how it would correspond. And if Gomorrah is about vices, then gamor, which means to have sex, again, that you can see the connection between the 2 words. And then from there you have, like I say, the Greek, the 3rd letter of the Greek alphabet is gamma. And then the 6th one is digama. Well, actually it isn't anymore. In the original Greek one, the 6th letter was digama, but in more recent times, they've taken this one out. So, and digama means twice 3, because if gamma is 3, digama means 2 times 3, which is 6. And the number 6 is synonymous with the word sex, and 6 is the same word basically as I've put here, because, because I and E are interchangeable. So 6 and sex are pretty much the same word. And also, I think it was George W. Carey explained that the reason why in all the creation stories, the universe was created in 6 days, because he mentions that creation can only happen through sex. So that makes a lot of sense as well. So sex is sex is the practice for creating new life as well. So yeah, another word similar to Gomorrah is Gamon. which means a man with a red flushed face. And also Gamon corresponds to pork. We know pork has a reddish tint to its skin, or a pig has a reddish tint to his skin. Then I thought I'd look at some other words with GAM and some different variations. And then I looked at the German word Gamon, which is where we get the English word for game. The modern English word for game comes from the German word Gamon, which means joy, amusement, and pleasure. And also, I said that the third letter in the Greek alphabet was Gamma. Well, the Hebrew correspondent to that one would be Gimel, because A and I are also interchangeable. So then you get Gimel, and Gimel in Hebrew means camel, as you can see here, camel. And it's really interesting, actually, because I'm saying that this corresponds with sex, but we know that a camel has 2 humps, and we know that a slang word for having sex is humping. So it's really interesting that Gimel and Gummel and Gamma are the same, both 3, and they're connecting with the whole sexual thing. So I hope you guys can see that. Like I said, if any of you never understand what I'm talking about, you can always feel free to message me and I'll get back to you straight away. And I know some of this might be like, some people might be watching this saying, oh, this is like, what are you talking about? But once, again, it's once you understand the interchangeables of languages, you can see how all of these words that I've put next to each other are all connected and all have similar meanings, although they're from different languages, and some of them are even different words. But ultimately, they all have the same kind of frequency or allude to the same thing. So now going to the last one, we're looking at the word hyperbola, and more specifically, the bole part of the word. Bolen is the bowl, which is the a hyperbola is the center part of is the inverse of a torus field. It's the central part of the torus field, and it connects with blue shift, whereas the torus itself connects with the redshift part of electricity and the torus field, whereas the hyperbola, and you see bole, is the same as blue, because O and U are interchangeable, and if you swap those round, you could get the word blue, which is why I've written it in blue as well. So bola means tree, and then you get words like bala. And a really interesting thing is the hyperboloid is also kind of connected to the male phallic, because it's the long part in the middle of the torus field. And when we look at a slang word for penis in Turkish, we get the word büllük, which is really, really interesting. So a slang word for penis in Turkish is büllük, again, corresponds with bole and blue shift. And then even in English, people might laugh at this, but again, it's still a syncretism. A lot of people in the UK, another slang word for the penis is a bellend. Well, bell is blue, again, interchangeable. For those who understand language and have been following all the syncretisms when it comes to languages. So yeah, I've got blue here. Like I've mentioned before as well, B and P are interchangeable. So then when we look at the word pole, which is where the hyperboloid is the pole as well, because that's the North Pole in the center, we can, again, I and O are interchangeable. So from pole, we get the word pil, which is a Turkish word, which means battery. And we know that a pole has 2 sides to it. It has a positive and a negative. So a pole is ultimately, it is a battery, but the word for battery in Turkish is pil. So obviously, like I've mentioned, O and I are interchangeable. So we interchange the O with an I, and then you get the Turkish word for battery, which is pil. And like I said, a pole is a battery because it has a positive and negative, a red and a blue. We also get the word like pole, like as in you go to a polling station to see who you're going to put in charge. Again, all electrical words. Obviously, we go to the polling station to vote or vault. Ultimately, we're voting. because we're putting someone in charge. So again, we're just making the connections of the words there. Also, the word, like I said, B and P are interchangeable. You get words like phallic and palace are also like penis or hyperbola blue shift related words. So I hope I made that clear for you guys. Like I always say, if you ever have any questions of what I'm talking about in any of my lessons, always feel free to message me, because I know this is quite intricate and complicated stuff. And like I said, maybe you should go back to the original videos where I explained a bit more about interchangeables and stuff like that, and you can get a grasp of what I'm actually talking about. Because I posted a picture of this and a lot of people were like, oh, I don't see where you're going with this. But again, I said to them that without me explaining it, it's kind of confusing just looking at it, which is why obviously I'm doing this video for you guys. So like I said, any questions, feel free to message me. But until next time I'm out, peace, love and blessings. Catch you later.